Hey everybody, it's Natalie, and on today's video we're going to be deep diving into novations, how they work, and why they're a game changer, and most importantly, why you need to be partnering with me to get these deals done. If you're tired of losing on deals because the seller's asking too much money, Novations can actually help you offer the seller more money because you're not going to be selling the property to a cash buyer. You're going to be selling the property to a retail buyer. So Novations opens up a big buyer pool of retail buyers, and so you're able to pass on those savings to the seller, offer them a higher price than your wholesale, get it locked up, and still make a 30K assignment. So let's go ahead, let's break it down right now. Now, what is Novation? Novation is a strategy that allows you to partner with the seller, put their property on the MLS, and sell to a retail buyer instead of flipping or wholesaling it to another investor. The key difference, you're not assigning the contract, you're replacing the contract with another. You're replacing it with a new agreement between the seller and the buyer. So instead of collecting an assignment fee by assigning your rights, you're going to be collecting a novation fee. Well, you could really call it whatever. It's really an assignment fee. It's your profit. You're going to be collecting a profit by getting the property under contract, bringing in that third-party retail buyer, having the seller sign a contract with them directly, and getting the difference in between. You're going to be collecting what pretty much is an assignment. That's basically an assignment. The only difference is you're not assigning your rights. You're replacing one agreement with the other. And another big difference is also the way you're running your math. When you're calculating wholesale deals, you're typically looking at the ARV, right? What your buyer, the flipper, is going to renovate and sell the property for, minus commissions, minus repairs, and minus their minimum profit requirement. That's going to get you your wholesale MAO, which is typically what you're offering these homeowners. And if they have a nicer property, or they have a little bit of time where they don't need to sell it in 2 to 3 weeks, they have time, that is when you need to be pivoting from wholesale cash offer to novations. Because with the novations, you're able to offer them more money, or sometimes get them exactly what they're asking, because sometimes it's just a little more than your wholesale. So you're able to get them that price that they want while going ahead, putting the property on the MLS, hiring a realtor, and bringing in that retail buyer. And here's the thing, when you're doing marketing, you're having seller leads go to you, or if you're doing cold calling, you're going to them. Whatever the case is, you're talking to property owners. And every property owner has a different situation that they're going through, and you'd be surprised how many are willing to take your novation offer rather than your cash offer. You'd be surprised. A lot of sellers are okay with this program, understanding that you're going to be bringing in a third party. The right way to do novations. I'm sure you've heard of Pace Morby and other individuals, other gurus on YouTube that go over this novation strategy. But there's a lot of different ways to do it. And what I mean by that is when you're getting the novation paperwork signed, you can technically go ahead, do repairs with the seller, and sell it for ARV. Because that's how some people do novations. Some people are locking these properties up via the novation route, and they're putting 30, 40, 50 grand into the property to fully renovate the house and sell it for ARV. The problem with that is not a sustainable business model, just because it's very risky. You're constantly going to be suing sellers because you put 10, 15, 20, $30,000 into a property you don't own. So I don't recommend anybody do novations that way. You're better off doing novations the second way, which I'm about to explain right now. So the way that I do novations, if you go to www.jv4real.com, if you go to their website, there's a lot of value there on how novations work. I answer every single question you might have under the sun in regards to novations. So go to www.jv4real.com, and that's where you can send over your hot motivated seller leads, where I can go ahead, pitch them on the novations. I can hire the realtor, and I can bring in that third-party buyer, so you and me can split a 30K assignment fee. Okay, so let me break down the second way to do novations, because I know you guys want to hear it. So as I told you guys, the first way is putting a bunch of money into it and selling it for ARV. Now, the second way requires a little tweaking of your buy box, meaning you are looking for specific types of properties. The only way for a property to qualify for the novation offer in my company is it needs to fit the following criteria. So it needs to be in livable condition, and that means somebody can live in the property. And I'm going to show you some pictures right now so you can take a look at what livable condition looks like and what I'm referring to. But livable condition means somebody can go ahead and live there right now. It might be a little outdated, but everything is functional. It works. Now, if you need to upgrade the roof or maybe an HVAC issue, no problem. I can take care of that. There should be no foundation issues. So what I'm doing with these properties with this specific buy box is I'm looking for properties that are in livable condition that can pass bank inspection. So even if they're outdated, as long as all the big components work, the plumbing works, the heating works, right? There's no foundation issues. We're pretty much good to go. We can sell that to a conventional buyer, right? Someone paying with a conventional bank loan, a retail buyer. We can sell that to a retail buyer. But we're not going to be putting $10, $20, $30, $40,000 because we're not going to be chasing anybody in court, suing them to make them sell so we can get our profit. We don't want to be in that situation, which is why we're doing novations this way, the way I'm explaining to you right now, where we're focusing on properties that are in livable condition and better, of course. Livable condition, it cannot have no foundation issues, and if it needs a brand new roof or it needs an HVAC replacement, we can do that. That is not a problem. And so essentially what we're doing is we're selling the properties as they sit. So if it's in good condition, livable, we're selling it as it sits, and then we're pretty much negotiating those little repairs, like maybe the roof change or an HVAC stop working. We can negotiate that with the retail buyer, and they're still going to be able to buy the property. Okay, so when we're doing novations this way, we're looking at as is value. So what could this property sell for right now in its current condition? Because we're not getting that ARV. We're not putting 10, 20 grand and fully rehabbing the property. We're doing novations this way so we can make high returns with low risk. Got this property on my desk. I'm going to look at what can it list for, what can it sell for right now on the open market. I'm looking at the pictures, I'm looking at the condition. What could this property sell for as it sits right now on the open market, right? So we're not getting that ARV. We're getting that as is value, which is somewhere down here. As is value, right? Market value in its current condition, right? By looking at all the comps in the area, what our house is selling for in this exact condition. And then we're going to take that number. So whatever number that is, after we determine our as is value, right? Our current condition value, we're going to times that by 90% to account for realtor commissions. And then we're going to minus 30K profit, because we want to make a minimum of 30,000 because these deals take 60 days to close. So with that being said, we're looking at market value times 90% minus 30K for our profit. That is going to be our novation MAO. So if you have a property right now where the seller rejected your cash offer, where you're looking at the sales and you're like, hey, what the seller is asking is still a discount from what they can get in the open market, then it's 100% worth it to send it over to jv4real.com so I can go ahead, pitch this to the seller, get it under contract, hire the realtor, bring in that third-party buyer, and get you a 30K assignment fee. Wholesale versus novations. Now, we just discussed that I'm not doing novations to fully renovate the property. I'm doing novations to sell them to a retail buyer as they sit. That's the best way to make high return with low risk, instead of novating the other way where it's high risk, high return. It's very risky. So I'm doing novations this way. Now we're going to go over here and look at this presentation here. So wholesale versus novations. On the left, you have this typical, your typical wholesale deal, which I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little here. And you can see this property is disgusting. Like, it needs a full gut rehab. It is hideous. It has poop stains over here. God knows what this is. This is a wholesale deal. It needs a ton of work. And then over here, you have your typical novation deal, the way we're doing it. right? Listing it as is, selling to a retail buyer, not flipping it or putting thousands of dollars, doing novations that route. Nuh-uh. This is the way we're doing it. And this is the best way because, like I mentioned, high returns, low risk. So this is what your typical novation deal looks like. And this is what our last novation deal looked like. As you can see, if we zoom into this picture here, look at the differences here. Look at this kitchen versus this kitchen. A wholesale deal, you have to go ahead and sell to a cash buyer, hands down, because look how ugly it is. You cannot sell this to a retail buyer. Their bank won't buy it, won't allow it, won't fund it. Novation deal. Take a look at the floor, the kitchen. This is definitely outdated, but it's very much livable. Somebody can come in here, start living in the property, no problem. This is the ideal condition for us to sell to a retail buyer. So if your seller is motivated and their house looks like this, right? It's not fully renovated, right? They're not a tire kicker retail seller. They actually want less than what the house is worth on the open market, and it's worth on the open market, and it's the house is in livable condition, and maybe they rejected your cash offer by 10, 20 grand, and you can't offer more. With the novation route, you are going to be able to offer them a little more money and get the deal to the closing table. So this is the two different types of conditions. Now, let's go over the key differences. Wholesale versus novations, the way we're doing them. So wholesale, any condition, right? Any condition, 30-day closing, 1 to 2 walkthroughs, your max allowable offer is typically 50 to 55% of ARV, and you're selling to a cash buyer. Now with a novation, the property needs to be in livable condition. So if the house is a complete teardown, it has foundation issues, it needs 30, 40, 50 grand just for it to be livable, that is always going to revert back to a wholesale deal. Okay, always. But if the property is in livable condition, we can go ahead and novate it, and we can do roof repairs, we can do HVAC repairs. That is not going to be a problem. The only thing we will not do is foundation issues. So if there's foundation issues, or we need to put 20, 30 grand just to make the house livable, it's automatically going to disqualify that lead as a novation, and it's going to have to be a wholesale deal. And you need 60 days. 60 days is going to give my team enough to pitch this to the seller, hire the right realtor, interview the top realtors, hire the best one, get the property on the MLS, get certain disclosures signed, interview the buyers, schedule walkthroughs, and pick the best offer. That's going to take 60 days. So if the seller does not have 60 days, then don't even bother pitching novations. It's not going to work. They need to have 60 days at the bare minimum so we can get the property sold. If they don't have 60 days, you're going to revert back to the wholesale offer. Now, with a novation, you're going to do 5 to 7 walkthroughs because remember, we're working with retail buyers. And then your typical formula is as is value times 90% minus 30K is your novation max allowable offer. So the way we're running our wholesale calculations and the way we're running our novation calculation is very different. If we're going to wholesale the deal, we're looking at ARV times commissions minus buyer minimum profit minus our wholesale fee minus repairs, and that's going to get us our wholesale MAO. That's typically around ARV times 50 to 55%. But with a novation deal, we're looking at as is value, so current condition value, what the house can sell for on the MLS the way it sits right now in its current condition. So as is value times 0.90 minus 30K. So as is value times the realtor commissions that we're going to pay minus the 30K profit. So a lot of deals, you really should be pivoting to novation so you can get it locked up. Okay guys, now that we've covered the differences between wholesale and novations, you guys should understand when you need to stick to your wholesale offer and versus when you actually need to pivot to novations. So I hope this explained it. It lays out the differences, and you can then look at the seller you're working with, and based on their situation, how long they need to sell the property, based on the condition, you can kind of see, hey, maybe I should pivot to a novation, or hey, maybe I should just stick to wholesaling this thing because of maybe the seller is getting foreclosed on and they need to close in like 2 weeks, or maybe there's a fire damage, maybe the seller doesn't want anybody walking through the property, then you're going to revert back to your wholesale. So now that you have these two exit strategies and you know when to pivot to the wholesale or to the novation, it's going to allow you to maximize your assignment fees. You're not going to be leaving money on the table.